Hello and welcome to Jurassic Park for a Minute, where we'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And back for the final show this week anyway, Mr. J. Jurassic, welcome sir.
Hello.
Alright.
I know what this minute is about.
You tried to tangent last minute to keep away from it, but now we're here. We're finally at one of the sadder moments in the franchise.
Yes, I don't. It's like death. You don't know what it is till you're in front of the gates.
Shall we face the inevitable and get into it?
Well, yeah. Let's just do it. Let's do it. It's like a Band-Aid.
Tear it.
As we enter minute 25 of Jurassic Park 3, the two beasts had come together, and the Tyrannosaur seemed to be winning. The two massive beasts continue to go back and forth. At the 10-second mark, the Spinosaur gets the Tyrannosaurus by the neck and holds on tight. The T-Rex roars, trying to break free, but can't. At the 14-second mark, it twists its head forward, snapping the Tyrannosaur's neck. And as Alan and the others run out of the way, the Tyrannosaur falls to the ground, dead. At the 25-second mark, the Spinosaur roars in victory as the survivors run into the jungle. At the 27-second mark, with the sound of a punch, we transition to Paul Kirby falling backwards against a tree, and his wife Amanda coming in to say no, please don't. At the 36-second mark, Grant rubs his knuckles, says it's time you've done some explaining, Mr. Kirby. Paul then goes on to tell Grant and the others how they'd done everything they could. They'd asked everybody, but no one would help, and at the US Embassy told them they should accept the inevitable. And as the minute ends, Amanda admits that her and Paul divorced over a year ago, and then Grant asks the important question, okay, well why me?
As we continue the fight, the Rex gets another hit in here with a headbutt, which is it's good here we're seeing the Rex use a couple of different tactics. It makes you wonder whether it's an adult or a sub-adult. We can sort of leave that aside. Just if you haven't got a larger predator on the island, do you have that instinct to fight? We know there's probably a couple more Tyrannosaurs on the island, but whether they'd have squabbles amongst themselves for territory, they probably wouldn't have any other large challenge unless they come across a Spinosaur.
I don't know. I mean, we do know that the scars on the male in the Lost World were put there to be indicative that they were fighting and that they were in a wild setting now where fights for dominance, food, mates, and stuff like that come into play. So I think that they did have a fight instinct because that's kind of the fight or flight instinct is kind of one of nature's most basal instincts, if you will.
Yep.
Yeah, and
it's kind of right up there with hungry, thirsty, and scared. You know.
Yeah, and it's been proven that proven maybe it's just Tyrannosaurs had a really rough life in the fossil record. Just looking at their they'd fight each other. I think there's also been some proof of cannibalism between them two. They were they were brawlers, man. These things were so yeah, how this fight goes, I'm still kind of
Last December I actually got to see the new Sue the T-Rex exhibit that they moved her from downstairs in the main hall to her own private suite closer to the rest of the dinosaurs. And the way that they show it off now is you are able to get kind of closer to the skeleton. You can just see better just what kind of life this animal lived. Broken ribs, broken tail, arthritis in the legs and the arms, disease in the jaw. I think that might have actually been what killed her now, is that she just couldn't eat anymore and she ended up starving to death.
Yeah, that's it. Isn't that parasite that birds get too, right?
I'm not sure. They said there was a form of a modern disease, but I forget what disease they said it was.
Yeah, there's this. I know there's this type of. It might be a disease or it might be a parasite. I can't remember which one it is. that happens to birds in their beaks, and they get holes through their bones, in their beak area. I might be completely wrong or how I'm interpreting this that I've heard before. I really gotta look it up again, but I know I because they had to do something with tyrannosaurs, and they were trying to explain some of the holes that they have in their jaw, and they're trying to compare it to this modern day disease or parasite that also attacks birds of today. So dinosaurs are birds. So these animals just lived really, really rough life. And how old was Sue that they said that when she passed away? How many years do you think?
30 years around there, 29, 30 years.
That's crazy.
I think it is. I think you're right. I think it is one of those deteriorating diseases, because I'm looking at a Live Science article about it now.
Yep, and they say a lot of like tyrannosaur fossils, and not just tyrannosaur, a lot of predators, carnivores that they're finding, have some of those holes in there.
Trichomoniasis.
There you go.
Sorry, let me start again. Trichomoniasis, I think.
Is it a disease or is it a parasite?
It's a single-cell protozoan disease.
There you go.
And it says in birds the disease is caused by Trichomonas gallinae, or a single-cell protozoan. I'm probably butchering my Latin here.
I'm glad you're doing that. Yeah, well, getting back to Sue's age briefly. That's sort of a lot of people sort of had an issue with Rexy still being alive come Jurassic World and her age and that sort of thing. And if she's the only predator on Nublar for all that time, then she's not really going to be involved in any other fighting unless it's a Triceratops or another large herbivore. So that gives a good age as to why she's still running around in Jurassic World.
And as well to that, any animal that's kept in captivity, we don't know how long she was, or do we know how long she was in Jurassic Park when Jurassic Park was still not running, but getting ready to run?
I think she 5 years? Was born in 88 or 89, then escaped in 93, was free until I think 99, and then was again captured until she broke out again, or was released in Jurassic World.
Yeah, I'm sure the DPG or someone's canonised it now, but I think the park itself had only been built for 3 to 4 years. So, but clearly they would have been making these animals before the park started to be built. Yeah,
and there's a good documentary you guys have probably seen it called The Real Jurassic Park. It's narrated by Jeff Goldblum. It's from the Jurassic Park times, I think 93, 94, and you got Jack Horner and Robert Backer talking about creating a real Jurassic Park, and they go to zoos, they talk to experts, they talk to people in the DNA field, how it would happen. And one of the things they said that they wouldn't feed live animals or whatever, or prey that the dinosaur would have trouble catching or might get hurt from, because these animals are very expensive to take care of, and especially ones that you're making like dinosaurs. So they would take super care of them. So I think they had crocodiles or alligators, and they were feeding them. And they asked them, do you feed sometimes, give them live prey? They're like, well, we'd rather give them dead prey or pieces of meat, because we don't want them to catch the disease, get hurt trying to catch the animal. Because when you watch nature documentaries of lions chasing gazelles and leopards, and there's so many times they fail and they get hurt pretty bad. Their hunts it's not always like I feel like 1 out of 10 times is their success rate with catching a gazelle or antelope or something of the sort. So
yeah, well, with my pet python, it was always a case of when you feed it rats, you kill the rat first, or give it frozen rats, so just so if it doesn't get it in the first strike and the rat sort of scampers away, it can't come back later and actually start eating or hurt the snake.
Yep.
Cousin bred mice to feed his snake, and once they got to like adult age, he would shoot them with a BB gun and then stuff them and then stick them in a bag and then stick them in a cooler mini fridge he had so that they would stay fresh.
So that's probably one of the reasons Rexy is in the health she is, and because they've been taking care of her for most of her life. Yeah, she was on her own for a while, but I mean, who's really on especially on Nublar? What dinosaur is really going to go up against her? She was the biggest one.
Yeah,
none of them.
Yeah.
She's the apex predator of that island.
Exactly. Now on Sorna, there's a difference. You got a couple apex predators. We know there's more than one Tyrannosaur there, and we know there was a Spinosaur in there. And I mean, there was a Ceratosaur. Even though Ceratosaur is smaller, still it's a pretty big, predator to face off or whatever if need be.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like I get why some fans had a little bit of an uproar on her being still around, but I feel like, well, there's belief that
there's more.
Yeah.
There's more of a chance of her being around than there is of that baby from the Lost World still being around.
Sadly, yes. Yeah. We don't know what's up with that T-Rex family. I think there's stuff with the DPG that they wrote, and there's like no dinosaurs on Sorna, but yeah, I really don't like that.
I'm going to refute that, if only because this was what I was told by Jack Awens, who is in charge of the DPG projects and all those barrel stuff, is that that I think there are, if only because they left it purposely ambiguous as not to have a huge adverse reaction. If you read the text, it's not really indicative one way or the other. It says that there's a large population drop, but it never says that there was a large extinction event. There was some species that did go extinct through competition, what have you, but they didn't. I don't think that Sorna's the wasteland people think it is.
That's actually good to hear.
Something that's not good to hear.
Oh no!
And
here we go.
We tangents again.
Here we go. Go back.
You were talking before about that whole fight and flight. And we get a brief cut here of Grant sort of rolls over on his stomach, starts to army crawl away from the fighting animals. But the Rex sort of tries for another headbutt, and this is sort of the start of its downfall because the Spinosaur pulls back and it misses, and it uses the opportunity to snap down and grab the Rex's neck in its jaws, and we sort of get that classic Rex roar here, as it's sort of almost a roar in pain.
It is, and this is kind of the parts where the colors start getting funky. When you look at when the T-Rex goes in for the headbutt, it's a kind of a shade of green. Then when it's kind of flipping around in the Spinosaur's mouth,
bright green.
It turns this it's almost like an olive brownish color, like the Thrasher color is. And then it goes to then when we get the shot of it biting down, that was the animatronic. That was, I think Stan Winston says that's the first time in a movie that they merge a CGI and an animatronic effect in one shot. And then we get the shot of it kind of thrashing around there, and it's this really, really kind of pungent green color.
Yeah.
And it just keeps doing, and it just kept doing this all through the scene, and it really bugs me. I'm sorry, I gotta say that. But yeah, you can see and then you can hear the neck crack, and if you look at it frame by frame, it almost looks like the T-Rex doesn't have any teeth, like the teeth got knocked out of its mouth. And you can actually see like bits of flesh and chunks of T-Rex flying out of its mouth as the neck gets cracked.
Oh, man.
It's like the worst kind of...
Don't look, Joe. Don't look. Well, yeah, that's the thing. It sort of uses those big arms to get a good hold of it. And one little fluid motion, it sort of steps forward and twists with its head and snaps the neck, which is a bad sound. I hate that neck snap sound. And then we get the shot of the others fleeing just in time to see the Tyrannosaur fall to the ground dead, and the Spinosaur crouches over its kill and roars.
Now, I always thought that again was one of the lesser quality of animatronic shots. It kind of looks like I'm not sure if it's the camera movement or the animatronic movement that throws it off, but it kind of looks like the animatronic is swinging its head to the side downwards as it's roaring. And it just didn't look right to me. I think it might have been the camera more than the animatronic.
Is there any way this fight could have gone? Like they planned to take the T-Rex out. I think that's the mistake they made by doing that. But if the Rex has got to go, I'm glad it was quick.
I think if they
we're going to see
more towards being a climax act than so early in the movie, and they had left it more ambiguous. Like you kind of hear them roaring back in the jungle, and you hear like a loud thud as one of them falls, and you just don't know which one. As you see the rest of them kind of running into the jungle, and then they get trapped by the raptors or something. I don't know.
We've commented before about how we dislike the fact that Predator and Predalien run at each other and then a nuke goes off, and how it's always left. Some films are left ambiguous like that, and we want to see one win or one lose. But like if you did have that sound of it hitting the ground, or even just have them fight and you don't know, because really there's no other role the Rex would have played in this film. So yes, you're going to have it take the Rex down, but it's not as if the Rex is going to be chasing them into the lab or the aviary or anything like that. I couldn't see the Rex coming back at the end of the film instead of the raptors to be the main thing they got to get past.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Like that would have been great to have something like that, but I feel like that was their intention the whole time, to show you that that the Tyrannosaurus Rex was not invincible, that it could be taken down, and it was going to be taken down by this guy, and this is the dinosaur you should feel is the more superior, powerful one. And that's the message that it's brought, especially when it roars over it, like, I am the king of Jurassic Park now, like that type.
Yeah,
that's the,
I just done that.
Yeah, that's the type of feeling I got from it, and that's where fans like myself just kind of got taken out of the movie. Like I was saying in an earlier minute that we had talked before, this scene, the fight, I've literally seen this scene maybe 10 times. I skip it because I'm like, what's the point? I already know what's going to happen. Even though I know what's going to happen in the rest of the film, but it's just the scene that I'm just kind of like, there's so much debate over it. Or there's so much parts in the scene itself where the Rex gets a hold of the Spinosaur, which we all know we can go on with that debate of the bite force and all that, but at the end of the day, there's just so much of it that, like, yeah, T-Rex might have been able to win this one, but it was never meant for it to win. Never.
Yeah.
Like, from the moment that Spinosaur took over that logo, the Tyrannosaurus had to be taken out. And sadly, this is the way they did it. It's just the way this film, and that's where this film kind of loses me right here. But then, certain other aspects of the film bring me back on it. But that was just that was like a downfall of my Jurassic fandom.
Well, that's it. Yeah, and then you sort of have, I'll describe it as not a backflip, but just them sort of correcting it by having Rexy come out of Tyrannosaur Kingdom and burst through that skeleton, and then even just the Rex and Indominus fight from the end of Jurassic World. Yes, Blue helped out a bit as well, but you could tell that they learnt from their mistakes just by having, as soon as that Rex went through that skeleton, you knew she was going to win the day, whether it was having the mosasaur help out as well, but she wasn't going to die there. And it's always, that question's always been there of, is she going to die in this trilogy or not, or is she just going to walk away into the sunset?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna.
If they do have her die, it won't be from like just old age or anything. I think it'll be in a fight. If only because, I mean, let's face it, as we've discussed, she has been in captivity most of her life. She's gotten her vaccination. She's got a good dental record. I mean, she's been in some scraps, but hey, we've also admitted T-Rex is a pretty tough animal. So we really don't know the life expectancy of a T-Rex in captivity. There's crocodiles in captivity that are over 100 years old. The oldest bird that ever lived was 66. For all we know, she could be in the middle of her life.
Yeah. And the thing is, we don't know also with the cloning procedures what InGen really did too.
Yeah,
I mean, but all this is just speculation and whatnot, But whatever, it is what it is. She's there, she's still around. If she dies in the next one, she's old. I get it. If she would, I just would, for being who that T-Rex represents and who it is to the fans, especially a person like myself, which loves the original T-Rex, Rexy. I love the TLW ones, don't get me wrong, because you guys know how much I love Lost World. But Rexy is the dinosaur that made me fall in love with dinosaurs. So the day that she goes out is going to be a sad day for me. Either way that she goes out, as long as it's not like this. I don't want a Spinosaur to make a reappearance in the next film and to end up killing Rexy. I would just walk out.
That petition. Stop it.
I know. I'm so sick of these petition people.
Yeah.
And they're, let's get Spinosaurus back and have a rematch. I'm like, we don't need a rematch. It's petty and unnecessary.
We don't need one. The Spinosaurus has had its moment in the sun. It had a whole movie to itself. Had a whole toy line to itself. I get the T-Rex but T-Rex is the staple. It is the logo. It is what Jurassic Park was started on. Michael Crichton, when he made the book, he didn't put a Spinosaur. He didn't put a Raptor. He didn't put a Triceratops. He put a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton on the book and on the second one.
I would go so far as to say that Rexy is the star T-Rex.
She is.
If only because both the cover of Jurassic Park and the logo and Rexy are both based on the American AMNH 5027, which actually gets a mention in the book. The skull for the skull for AMNH 5027 was used to reference and create the skull for the Jurassic Park T-Rex.
There you go.
Yeah, so there you go. See, I mean, so if you're trying to take out this, because there is a big following that really wants the Tyrannosaur, they call it the T-Rex fanboys and whatnot in this. But when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, the Tyrannosaur is the symbol for the entire franchise. So why is it that we've gone back? And the Raptors are very famous dinosaurs in this franchise. Now we have one that's a character in the movie, like an entire character in the movie. Yes, Rexy.
Movies where they've been characters. The big one is arguably one of the most famous Raptor characters from the first.
I love that Raptor. That Raptor is awesome. Yeah. Sometimes I'm confused which one it is in the movie, but I don't care.
Rick Carter production notes discovered that a friend of mine discovered actually said that it is the one that attacks Ellie in the shed, not the one that kills Muldoon. And that means that it's the one that comes through the tarp and is the first one Rexy kills.
Oh, wow. I always thought it was the other way. I always thought it was the big one was the one that attacks her last. No. But I guess the other raptor that attacked her last is like, you killed her!
Oh yeah, nobody expects that she would be the first of the raptors to die by the T-Rex, but
But then
I
again,
mean, she's a very unconventional villain. Let's face it.
but then again, it shows how much of a you know badass that Velociraptor is to jump up and attack a full-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Well, she's leading the pack. They're leading the pack then in a hunt. Let's get it.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like we said, if the T-Rex, if next film shows her passing away or whatever, may be in a heroic fight, because it seems like dinosaur fights are the thing now. They just keep putting more and more of them now. So I personally, I was okay with like the first one, Jurassic Park. Then Jurassic Park 3 kind of overdid it for me. Then Jurassic World. I know, Brad, you're not the biggest fan of Jurassic World, but I liked it. I liked the fight. I was fine with it. Her bursting through that Spinosaurus, I actually jumped out of my seat and yelled out, "Yes!"
I cheered too. I didn't jump out of my seat, but I definitely cheered. Yeah.
Oh, I took my mom to see Jurassic World, and she loves Rexy. She absolutely loves Rexy. She calls her the queen. She doesn't even she doesn't know dinosaur names and stuff. But so she's like, whenever I talk about dinosaurs and I say maybe like a T-Rex or something, I'm like, Mom, la reina. Reina in Spanish means queen. So I'm be like, oh, it's la reina. She'd be like, oh yes, my favorite one. She loves her. So when I took her to see it, and she doesn't like the Spinosaurus at all. So when she saw Rexy just burst through the Spinosaurus, she did the same thing. She got up and she was cheering. Like, this is a way older lady just like getting up and just cheering. Like, it was great,
And that's it. It's fine. And I've got no problem with the scene. My bigger gripe coming out of that is the fact that Colin come out afterwards and said that is the exact skeleton of this Spinosaur we're seeing and talking about now. And just doing stuff like that.
Yeah, which we know it doesn't have the same anatomy as that Spinosaurus.
No.
Just being a Spinosaurus, it was enough symbolism. It doesn't need to be the one. I didn't care for it being the one. Just the symbolism behind it. I was like, oh yeah, that's a big FU to. Yeah. You might have to edit that right now.
But no, it was censored enough. Even the fact that it was the Spinosaur, like if we knew from marketing and that and the website that it was a Spinosaur skeleton, but in the actual film itself, you can sort of see it off in the corner when they do the main street shots, and when the Tyrannosaur comes through it, yes, you sort of got that sail of bone on it that says, okay, Spinosaur, but that could have easily been a Baryonyx or something else in the film. It's only because of what we've seen before and after with marketing that we actually knew it was a Spinosaur skeleton. Well, I did anyway. I didn't know, looking at it in the film, that it was the Spinosaur, but
I knew it was a Spinosaurus. I just didn't know, or with the thing they said afterwards, that it was the Spinosaurus, because it's nasal, like it has one ridge.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the double ridge.
On the forehead.
It doesn't have the double ridge, because they made it more like the scientifically accurate Spinosaur skull, but still the body looked like the Spinosaur that they have for the Jurassic Park franchise. Yeah. It doesn't have, it's not on all four legs like they draw it now, or they think it might be now. I think they might change it again. I don't know. Paleontology, every week they're changing something new. That's why you guys got to listen to Paleontology podcast and read up on those news articles. Every week they got a new one.
Yeah, we'll just wait.
I got friends that text me like new stuff like, hey, did you hear about that dinosaur they discovered in Canada? I'm like, yes, I did last year.
I suppose to end it out with the Rexy dying or not, next film not taking into account what Universal wants to do with the expanded universe and making 20 more films, like whether it dies or not, it's going to be sad anyway, just knowing it's the last time you're going to see Rexy on screen.
Yeah, that's going to be...
I'm going to say something blasphemous here. Maybe Jay should cover his mom's ears or something, or make sure she's out of earshot. but never always felt that Rexy was overrated, and I always preferred the male T-Rex, the buck in The Lost World. In fact, when I was a child, I almost saw something of a father figure in him because he was big and posing like my dad, but he also showed that he loved his son, you know?
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I love the TOW T-Rexes, and I love the buck, one only, you know, that a male, a buck, that type of T-Rex, and that's why when the Mattel came out with this, the green one was supposed to be the buck, I was excited to go get it, and you know, having the Bull T-Rex toy too, you know, but like I said, Rexy was the first one that I saw on screen with when the Jurassic Park merchandise was coming out in 92, and then into 93, you had the folders, you had the Trapper Keepers,
yep,
and the book bags, and it would have that scene of the Explorer there in the rain and her face looking down at the Explorer. Seeing that and just knowing how big a Explorer car is, that a friend of the family had one, and knowing her face looming over it is basically that big, it was just a majestic type of I was looking at a mythological creature that I read in like books and stories and fables and stuff, and then seeing that on screen, knowing that that's, you know, it's a T-Rex, and that's the T-Rex I was just reading about in these books, but look at it, it's on screen, it's alive, it's moving, and it's doing things, and it's scary, but it's beautiful. That's the way I saw it, and that's why it has this place in my like Jurassic heart that no other dinosaur has really been. I mean, the buck is there too, but it's mostly Rexy, which is like my main dinosaur, my main homie.
Well, there's a tragedy of it too that people don't normally, or fans don't normally talk about, where after Jurassic Park, all the other dinosaurs, they've all got multiples of other animals where they're changing sex, they're mating, whatever else, flourishing. Where she's there, she's solo. There's no one
alone.
else. Yeah,
she's alone.
Yeah, so there's no chance of an offspring taking her place. There's nothing.
It is pretty sad, because that's why the Lost World ones were so special, because you saw them, it was a family unit, and they had an offspring, which is great. You know, seeing a T-Rex family with, and just seeing the animals be natural in that movie,
yeah,
was so great. That's what makes that movie so great. But yeah, I think we had enough of tangent right there.
We tangent after the fight as well. Well, and that's sort of, and just to end out on the fight, as I said earlier, sort of the whole boxing match theme of it. The Rexy got two good hits in there, where the Spinosaur only got one, so the Spinosaur would be the Rocky Balboa and lose this fight if it was real. But then, of course, well, death by KO, so it's all done. But we get a pretty harsh cut here to the sound of a punch and Paul going flying backwards into a tree, and he falls down, and we get Amanda sort of suddenly come on the screen saying, no, please stop, just stop. And then we get a shot back, seemingly up from Paul's point of view, as Grant's standing there saying, it's time you do some explaining, Mr. Kirby, and he starts rubbing his fist. Which
I'm going to admit, it wasn't until I punched somebody myself in the face when I was a teenager. I won't get into the reasoning, but I always thought it was the sound of a vine snapping, and that's what caused Paul to stumble backwards and tripped over the vine. Because I remember it's nothing like a punch.
Yeah, I remember one time, like the film was in the background and I had it playing, and then I don't know what made me just stand there and kind of just look at that one scene or whatever, and that's when I realized, I was like, wait a minute, he punched him.
Yeah.
Well, that just looking, the fact he's sitting there rubbing his fist, is that because it hurt and he's rubbing his knuckles to relieve the pain, or is it you start explaining, otherwise you're going to get another one?
Yeah, I think it hurt.
Yeah, when you punch somebody in the mouth real hard, it does hurt. And you even see it with Roland when he broke the American man's nose. He's dabbing his knuckles with a wet rag to to kind of alleviate the pain.
Yeah, that jawline, when you hit that jawline, it hurts. It hurts
Yeah.
your knuckles.
Yeah.
It's I feel like when you're in a fight, the adrenaline that you got going on, like, softens the blows. But
Yeah, well, it's just another thing that the movies sort of change, where you'll have Indiana Jones sitting there and punching someone over and over again, not taking in the fact that you're going to start getting bloody knuckles. You might even break your hand if you're hitting the wrong way and break your wrist.
And then again, I never really saw Grant as like a fighter. You know what I mean?
Well,
He's already fight somebody, you know.
Yeah.
That's always my view.
Yeah, and that would probably lead more to the fact that that hurt, and he's sitting there rubbing his hand because it's not something he's either done before or done that often.
Mm-hmm.
But we cut to a photo of Eric that Paul pulls out of his wallet and starts to explain that they called everyone. We done everything we could and no one to help us. The Costa Rican government said it's a no-fly zone, and the US Embassy, that's our embassy, said that we should accept the inevitable. Can you believe that, as he says, and raised his voice a little bit. So I don't even know how that phone call... Well, they're in Costa Rica, so I don't know. Hey, our son just flew out to the island, hasn't come back, can you help? I don't even know how that would go, but... Meanwhile, Billy's just standing there holding Paul's wallet, looking at the photo, and he sort of says, he says that you let a 12-year-old go parasailing alone, where I know the script in the novel says that Eric's 13. Because Billy says 12, but I don't think they don't say anywhere how old Eric actually is in the film, so...
No.
But the whole time Billy's sitting there holding the wallet, I'm just waiting for him to check and see if there's any money in there, or... Because again, they think that these people are rich at this point. Seeing an empty wallet or no credit cards in there could say, well, what's going on here as well. But...
Or seeing the type of credit cards that are in there, like, say if you got a platinum card, it's not nearly as good as if you got a diamond card.
some food stamps, some vouchers.
I mean, let's face it, the guy was swimming at the Y. I mean, he's probably got his YMCA membership card in there. Most would have their own private pool.
Yeah. But Amanda says no, he wasn't alone. He was with a friend, and Ben Hildebrand. And Amanda sighs then and sort of lets some of the cat's out of the bag that Paul and her divorced over a year ago. And as the minute ends, Grant asks, okay, but why me? Which we're all wanting to know, and we'll get to that next minute. But in the novel script comparisons briefly, as the Spinosaur kicks the Rex, it wounds it, and below Grant gets splashed with a bit of blood from the wounded Rex, which probably, because of the rating, they wouldn't have been able to have Grant standing there covered in blood. Even being animal blood, I don't think they might have scared the kiddies a bit more. The Spinosaur then gets the Rex on the ground in its jaws, and it's only sort of a few feet away from where the survivors are pinned up against a tree. And so they're pretty close as the Rex's jaws are swinging around, and it tries to get up, but the Spino grabs it around the neck and strangles the life out of it. It's described. Which,
Jesus.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit darker there.
Oh.
And then the Spinosaur lets out a victorious howl as the blood-soaked professor leads the group into the underbrush. So
wow, they were going really dark with this one.
Yeah, it's sort of, that's from the script too, not the novel. So it's sort of weird how dark they sort of wrote it in the script, and a couple of times where they won't say Grant's name, they'll say the professor or the scientist. Yeah, which I found odd as well. But we get a little bit more of the confrontation. Paul hands Grant the photo, and Amanda says it's our son and he's on the island. And then she also says that he's with Bill Hildebrandt, and Billy actually asks, who's that? Then Paul replies, smuggler, or sort of her new boyfriend. And Amanda says, a friend. We were vacationing. Eric wanted to see the island and the dinosaurs, so Ben found a guy who would take them parasailing, and they never come back, which is a good little bit of backstory, just what happened on Costa Rica where they found the dinosaur guys, Enrique and that.
That would also explain the why when we find the camcorder later in the movie and we see them playing on the beach, and Amanda says, "I took this the day this appeared, or the day